What's up, y'all? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and shalom. How y'all doing? So this is gonna be a quickie. Well, actually, I hope it's a quickie because sometimes people come in, I like to interact with them, right? So I had a pretty hectic day. I've been the last couple of days. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the winter, but I have a really bad habit of sleeping in, man. Like I need to get back into the habit I used to have. I used to have a habit where I got inspired by this guy named Jocko Willenick because I had to teach a class on time management. And then I just go randomly just, search YouTube for good videos about time management. I happened upon this one YouTuber. I forgot the guy's name, but shout out to him for having Jocko Willenick on. Jocko Willenick is a highly decorated Navy SEAL. And basically now he's like a motivational speaker. He teaches a lot about leadership. His podcast is actually pretty good. I'm not too big of a military guy. Like I do military concepts and stuff like that. But at the same time, like I'm not always going to be in the military, but it's good to, have these concepts and then move on from them. Right. So that being said, I think that it's real important. Actually, let me get this thing a little closer. It's real important to think about who are people that you look up to. And I think that the first thing that people need to look up to, right, is first things first. Your parents and your family, whether it be extended family or your siblings and stuff, especially if your siblings are older than you, at the baseline in an ideal society, at least to me, right? If everybody had the same life, the same opportunities, and everything was equal, I think the baseline for a good example of how to be a good human being would be your parents, the people that bring you into this world. And unfortunately, we see all too often, and this is what's really sad, and I think it's really, really bad here because in our culture, in the U.S. especially, we have an individualistic culture. So yes, there are avenues. We have foster care and all these systems, child protective services. Hey, what's up, Nicer? What's up? You always showing up. You're always showing love. You know what I'm saying? So I think you really like this one. So we have these systems, right, as safety nets in case parents don't work out. But all too often, man, I mean, I hate to say it, there's a lot of terrible parents out there. There's a lot of people that are willing to, obviously they breed, right? They do acts that result in the birth of children. I mean, that's what sex is. At the end of the day, if you're straight, right? If you're a man and a woman and you're laying in bed together, the object of what your bodies are doing to each other, what your mind is trying to do is something completely else because you're just trying to get off. But what your body is trying to do is impregnate or get pregnant. That's what your body's trying to do, whether you like it or not. It's just nature. So unfortunately, people are breaking life into this world and they don't really care about their offspring. That's sick and that's disgusting. I think the worst human being, besides somebody that commits crimes, like actual crimes, I think the biggest crime is bringing a life into this world that you're not going to love. I think that's sick and that's disgusting. I think that should be a crime in and of itself. That if you bring a kid in this world that you don't want, and it is going to be put in the system and stuff like that, you should be punished for being such a terrible parent that your kid had to be put in foster care or something like that. That should be actual jail time. But I'm not going to get into that. So your parents and your family should be the inspiration behind you. I remember when I was a kid, for instance, I looked up to my older brother like crazy. It was just such a natural thing. It was such a beautiful thing. He's bigger than you. He's stronger than you. He's smarter than you for the most part. You have your dad. Your dad's your best, your best friend. Sometimes, when he can be, he's your best friend. But other times, your dad is you have this fear and this respect for your father. And especially as being like a strong black man, even though me and my dad still to this day don't have the best relationship, I'm glad and I acknowledge that I'm blessed to have a father in my life. Your mother, your mom is your caregiver, your emotional caregiver. She loves you unconditionally. She brought you into this world. Every boy is a mama's boy. I don't care what anybody says. Every boy is a mama's boy. Even if your mom's terrible, every boy will live and die and do anything to protect their mother. Unquestionably, for the most part. So the second tier of respect should be your leaders, the leaderships in your community. So these could be anyone from your pastors, your preachers, your moms, your your teachers, just all people that are in positions of authority, right? There are people that you're supposed to look up to for guidance and to show what a respectable human being is. And all too often, okay, of course, on top of that too, in the last couple of years, especially, we see so much exposure. Sorry, can't see this. My computer's doing something weird. Yeah, we see so much exposure to, ineffective leadership. I mean, look at Congress right now. I'm not going to get too political, but I mean, this stimulus thing is exposing how incompetent people in leadership positions are. Especially like if you look at religious institutions, right? The reason that people have so much beef with religious institutions is because there's so many scandals. They find out the pastor did this, or the Catholic priest did that, or the Pope did this, or the local imam did that. People lose respect, especially young people. Young people are naive, but they're not stupid. And when they see that encourages a lot of the rebelliousness that we see in our society. We have so much rebelliousness, but not because young people are naturally rebellious or anything like that. I don't think that's the case necessarily, because there's a lot of young people that have been to authority. They respect authority if it's shown to be strong and competent. I think a lot of the rebelliousness comes from disillusionment with leadership. Like, these are leaders that are corruptible, are super corrupt. These are leaders that have no moral backbone. And then so you just say, hey, if the system doesn't work, I'm just going to dip out. I'm going to divest from the community or the system that I'm a respective part of. And we see that all too often. And then so the third thing is we have a mythos of respect for cultural figures. And this can be, legends, like, this can be mythical people, right? Comic books or old tales and stuff like Hercules, right? Every man knows who Hercules is. Hercules was like, he had good moral fiber. He was this hero that did this and all these labors and things like that, fought monsters, was respected by the gods themselves. So people look upon that as being like, oh, that's the ideal man. Women have Joan of the Arc. Joan of Arc is this hero, right? She was this lonely peasant girl from a village nobody ever heard about. She got, she believed that she heard, the angel Gabriel, one of the angels, came down to her and said, hey, liberate your country from the English. Then she picked up her sword. She inspired her whole nation. She won a bunch of victories and stuff like that. And she was burned at the stake for her views for witchcraft. And now she's hailed as a saint, right? So we have these cultural, whether they existed or not, we have these cultural leaders that we have as a pinnacle for, representing our interests or things that we aspire to be, like standing for honor, commitment, sacrifice, things like that, like beautiful things, fighting evil. And then it also comes down to, you could be political heroes, like Nelson Mandela. You could say the Black Panthers. You could say different religious leaders, that also were political leaders, like Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. I mean, these two guys were also religious leaders, but they also were political leaders too. And you can go back to, prophets in the Bible, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You could, the Buddha. Those are also, you could also say, oh, these people were cultural figures or, historical figures that were religious people or spiritual leaders that people base their moral foundation upon and say, I aspire to be like them, right? So that being said, I think a big problem now is we look at the mass media culture that has really been propagated in the last, I would say, 50 years. With the advent, I think the first advent was, now there was popular music, there was jazz and blues and things like that, things like that, vaudeville or things of that nature. However, when the radio met television, especially when TV came out, it came right around the time rock and roll came out, right? So rock and roll was one of the first mass media marketed musical movements, where it had visual representation as well as sonic and representation, right? Through the radio, and also, of course, TV has sound as well. So, industries were created to mass market this. And then, they came the Motown era. You have this, soul R&B come out and stuff like that. That was also picked up. At first that was really independent because of segregation, right? The black music industry and the white music industry, sometimes they intertwined, but for the most part, they were heavily segregated, right? Motown was just all quote unquote black music. So after that, you also had, rock and roll hit its peak. In my opinion, late 60s and the early 70s and stuff like that. And then you had punk rock as a reaction to that, as being the antithesis, like anti what was the establishment of that. Then you go in the 80s, you have the hair metal, and I'm not going to get into that, but you know what I'm talking about. Then it came hip hop, right? Hip hop came out late 70s, right? For the most part, in the form that it's recognized, late 70s. And then again, heavily segregated, right? Then it got picked up around, at least in my opinion, heavily picked up and marketed around the late 80s. That's when the mainstream was like, hey, this is not just a fad. We need to tap into this. We need to figure out what makes this going to be the next big thing. Then, the rest is a wrap, right? No pun intended. So through that, a lot of kids, because if you look at the situations at the time, you look at all the different political travesties and social upheavals that were happening. You had the sexual revolution, you had the drug war, you had, crack era, especially. You had, in the 60s, you had the Vietnam War, and things like that. So whenever these social conundrums happened, young people felt really disillusioned with the established systems. So they pinned on these historical figures, or whether it be the historical or cultural figures like musicians and athletes, entertainers and stuff, to be representations of what was not only cool, but also what to aspire to be, right? What is a good quote unquote human being. And I think that's insanely, though it has good intentions, there are some people that you could say that are good role models for the youth that are involved in the industry, because hey, it's good to, if they already have good parents and they are also looking for something external that they can identify with, because let's be honest, a lot of the things that our parents are into, we really don't have the same interests. So they're going to seek somebody that has the same interests as them, that looks like them, especially, or has some of the same mannerisms, or comes from the same generation. They say, hey, I want to be like X, Y, and Z, right? I understand that, and I'm not going to dispute that. However, the title of this is, it's okay to have heroes, not idols, but not idols. There's a difference between the two. You could be a war hero, right? Because your accomplishments on the battlefield, but you can go back home and be a complete POS. And that doesn't exonerate what you did on the battlefield, doesn't exonerate you from doing heinous things when you're back home to people. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that this is a common case, but that these things do happen, right? You could be, a great person in your personal life. Like I said, I'm going to flip this on its head. You can be a great person stateside or whatever like that. This all happens throughout history, right? There's good people with great morals, and they go off to, let's say, to explore things, explorations like the conquistadors or something like that, or people that go off into the battlefield or to war and stuff like that, and they can do horrible things. Like they do war crimes, they enslave people maliciously, it has nothing to do with the actual campaign and stuff like that, out of malice and the seeking a profit. Those people, right? Obviously, they're not the same person that they were back home. They're doing this out of a sake for personal profit, right? And, just for the glory of murder and violence, right? That's obvious. That's something that's obviously frowned upon. I mean, look at that. That's what basic colonialism was, right? So those people aren't quote unquote good people. Now back home with their families are probably the best people they could be. And so when it entices entertainment and music, I think a lot of this has to do with they make good music that we have an emotional connection with. And that's the biggest drawback, I think, of sometimes the music, is because we have such an emotional connection to it. Sometimes we emotionally connect with that person, and we think we know that person for who they are because of how we connect through music, right? And unfortunately, that can also, as we've seen in the last couple of years, especially, that's not always true. I mean, we grew up. I mean, I don't even have to name people that we grew up with their music, and then as we get older, we're kind of disillusioned when we hear really bad things. We're like, hey, there's no way that person could have done that. But all too often, especially if there's sufficient evidence, like this is not like some scandal he said, she said. And I'm going to use one person in particular, and people can get in their feelings if I defend this person. I personally believe that Michael Jackson was severely misunderstood. And he was super naive because he believed in the best of people, and he put himself in the situations, and he had weird concepts, right, that to the normal person don't make sense, right? And to him, it makes perfect sense. Like for him, it's like, hey, there's no way I touch kids. Like I would never do that. Like I just really like hanging out with kids because people are terrible. Like, let's be honest, like from his point of view, I understand, like, dude, adults are terrible people. I hate it. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, man. Adults are terrible. We do horrible, terrible things. You know, we destroy the environment. We cause wars. You know, we abuse people and things like that. I mean, like kids, yeah, some of them can do that, but especially little kids, that's not really their agenda, right? They're pretty innocent. They just absorb and take a sponge of everything around them. So of course he'd be like, hey, I like hanging out with kids. Yeah, if you believe that he did those things, I'm not trying to get into that argument or whatever. I'm just showing my perspective, right? So the reason that he got himself put in those situations is because he may have felt he was doing something that was acceptable because of his intentions, but to the outside world, it totally is not that, right? That's like me, for instance, right? I guarantee there was one period of time where being a male gynecologist was looked upon. Ew, a male gynecologist, you're a pervert. And no, there's no way a man wants to look at another woman's, private parts for the sake of health and science, right? There's obviously some perverse things going on. And now there are people that do that. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, you can be like, oh, hey, I just think that, it's just something I'm interested in. And I think I'm going to be good at it. But I guarantee there's probably for the longest time that people were like, ugh, like that's freaking disgusting. Like, you're a pervert, you know what I mean? Things like that. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it at like that whole conversation is for another day. But there's so many musicians and athletes and entertainers that get exposed for who they truly are. And it's factual. This is not he said, she said. This is not scandalous. They are, terrible people. And now we all do. No, there's various different degrees. Like, for instance, I'm going to go, hey, what's up, man? Hey, I'm glad you chimed in. I'm glad I chopped it up with you in the chat over at Art Edmore. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there's some tons of athletes and entertainers that do terrible things. And I'm not saying that they're irredeemable. I will say that there are some things that I consider irredeemable, right? I think if you do anything relating to children, I don't want anything to deal with you. If you straight up, like you say, you admit it, like, oh, I do things to kids. Hey, I want nothing to do with you ever. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. May Allah the Most High forgive you, but I'm not. I just don't want to associate with you because it's something really personal to me. Two, people that murder people maliciously just for fun. Like I watched Court TV the other day. There was this guy that was on Tinder, and he was looking for a date, and this girl set him up, had people rob his house, and she was testifying. She was asked to testify in court of what they did to him. So these guys, they got caught recording them. Like the guy was begging for his life. He was like, please take everything. I got kids. I'm a single father. Please don't kill me. And they still killed him. I don't care. Death penalty for those people. That's irreforgivable. This guy was begging for mercy, and you had the audacity to kill him. It's not sexy people who was the topic of the stream. Topic of the stream is it's okay to have heroes, but not idols. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's this concept, right? I'm pretty sure you heard of teen idols, right? Or American Idol. Like, especially if you can understand what shirk is, right? And things like that. Like, it's weird that we live in a society that says, like, people are literally worshiping their celebrities. They're worshiping their celebrities. And I see all the time, it's just like, if somebody, for instance, messes up, hold them accountable and say, hey, they did something wrong. But people will go through these mental gymnastics and even excuse the toxic behavior of their favorite celebrity. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that everybody is going to be perfect. We all make mistakes. We should be held accountable, period. But just because somebody makes good music and things like that doesn't mean that excuses them for the behavior. Like, there's plenty of people. For instance, I talked about this the other day. I grew up hugest R. Kelly fan that they could possibly ever be. My parents both are R. Kelly fans. I can't remember the last time I've listened to his music intentionally, but I am never going to dispute that man's talent. And hear me out. And I will say this right now. And anybody that wants to smoke can get the smoke. There will never be as a prolific R&B talent like R. Kelly ever. Point blank, period. There will never be another R. Kelly. That guy, for somebody that couldn't read, he made music that I consider is the best R&B, modern R&B music ever made. Now, let me just leave that right where it is, right? So, yeah, we have this concept of idol worship. And I remember all the time, it's just like, you get teenagers, for instance, right? They'll have posters all over the wall of their favorite athletes, their favorite musicians, and stuff like that. And I remember as a kid, I even caught myself a couple of times doing this. I would literally look at their image and just be like in awe and just be like, that person is everything I want to be. And there's some, in real talk, people don't want to admit this, man, but I'm pretty sure you see it in movies and a lot of the times, and other people will admit it too. They'll literally go up over to that poster, or there's, or let's say it's a poster or like a statue of like their favorite artist, musician, or it could be like a cartoon or something like that. And they're just like, oh, please, like bless me with as much talent as you have. Oh, please do this for me. Please do that for me. Dude, that's literally, you're worshiping the image of your favorite musician and stuff. You know what I'm saying? R. Kelly for 10 years. Yeah. Yes. That's why I said, I was like, I can't remember the last time I intentionally listened to his music. And what's kind of crazy is when that tape came out, that should have been it. Like when that tape came out, that should have been it. Like, for instance, like that's why I separate MJ, what MJ is accused of from R. Kelly did, because for this one simple fact, right? For the one simple fact. The ones that they both went to court for both of their issues, right? But with R. Kelly, for one, right, there was the actual marriage certificate they did with Aaliyah. So that was kind of like, and depending where you come from, that's socially acceptable. Like, that's not socially acceptable in America to marry somebody that's like 14, 15 or whatever like that. You go somewhere else, it is. Child marriage actually is actually in of itself legal in the U.S., depending on what state you live in. But anyway, that's another different topic. And then there was the tape. And to the tape, that was point blank period, that was R. Kelly. I saw that when it first came out when I was a kid, unfortunately, right? For MJ, if there was an actual video, and I would not want to see this, I'm not saying I would like to see this, but if there was like a factual video of him actually doing the things he was accused of, it's a wrap. Video evidence for me, if you see something in video evidence, it's a wrap. And there's a lot of people that get into trouble for things, and they have video evidence that proves their innocence, and some of them still get in trouble. I don't know if you follow Cuba Gooding Jr. Cuba Gooding Jr. Last year, the year before that, was accused of groping a woman at a bar. And there was like security footage from the bar, right? And he didn't do any of that, but he still got in trouble. I think he's still going through litigation and stuff like that for that. But that's a separate thing, right? So I think people really idolize their favorite celebrities and idolize their favorite musicians and stuff. And that gets them into really dark paths, I think. In particular, and I'm going to be honest from my end, one of the reasons I think that I'm not going to blame any of the stupid decisions wholeheartedly on what other people did and what influence they had on me, right? However, it is what it is. I didn't have when my parents divorced, especially, my family was very dysfunctional. I would like to say, I believe that it was kind of a broken home. There was a lot of really messed up things going on. I'm not going to get into that because I'm not going to do a boo-hoo, woe is me kind of story. That's not really my thing. I don't like people that do that. I mean, it's good to acknowledge the traumatic experiences that you have, but that's not all you are. But I remember I watched documentaries on even my favorite musicians, and I would literally type in sometimes, what drugs did they do in order to make this album? How many women did they sleep with? That's what I considered also be a package deal about my interest, right? I wanted to know the lifestyle that they lived as well. And so I intentionally got turned on into going down a really dark route because I wanted to live like the people I idolized. So that's why I think it's toxic. And especially artists, and if there's any artists right now that actually come and see this, I'm going to go on record and say this. Artists, athletes, entertainers, it's good. Live your best life. I'm not going to tell you not to do this, not to do that, but what you actually are obligated to do, because you know that you felt this way too when you came up. Kids are looking up to you guys, and be very wary of keeping the crazy stuff that you do, that you want to do, and your crazy urges in private. If you sip lean and do all these drugs and stuff, do that in private. Don't put it out in your music and glorify it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways to talk about these things that are taboo in a way that doesn't glorify them. But all too often what we see is that these guys are, what they do in their music is they glorify it, and then in their personal life, they're doing it too. And their young audience is looking at that and they're like, hey, this person's rich, they're famous, they have all the girls, like, especially me, I ain't gonna front. Growing up, I was like looking at all my favorite artists, and I was like, man, they got the baddest girls. They got all the gear that I want. They dress nice. They have money. They have these nice houses. They live these lavish lifestyles and stuff. I want that. I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to work hard. I don't want to work hard and spend 20 years in the military and retire and then go through all that just to have something. Like, I want it now. And if I have to be a musician and do this and do that in order to get that, then I'm going to do that. Never minding that, some people are more talented than the others. Some people, they know the right people in order to get in those positions. That's a whole different other topic, right? But I want to live like those people. So that'd be here. I hate this whole idol and fandom nonsense. Entertainers are nothing more than court gestures, because now we in the end of the day, we in the days we worship them. Facts, bro. Facts, bro. I'm glad I'm not the only one, man. Sometimes you think when you come to this knowledge, right, you start thinking that, man, am I crazy? Because like you look around and you see the way the world's operating, and you're just like, this ain't right. You know what I'm saying? This ain't right. Am I crazy? Because do you see what I see? Like, this doesn't make any damn sense. And, some people will say, oh, you're insecure. You just don't know. And blah, blah, blah. Everything's all right. And it's just like, dude, the ship is sinking. The ship is very slow. And nobody's paying attention to it. But, like, the ship is sinking. Like, yo, we need to get lifeboats, or we need to plug the hole or something like that. We need to call it SOS. The ship is sinking slowly, very, very slowly. And everybody's just, as long as they can eat, drink, sleep, hook up, and party, get entertained, nobody cares. But you're losing your youth. The next generation is getting more and more misguided, more and more lost. Getting more lost in the sauce. You know what I'm saying? And in the long run, it's going to be detrimental, because eventually we're going to start having kids that don't look up to us at all. We're going to be busting our butts to provide the best life for our children. And I think that it's obligation of every parent to give their all in making sure their kids have the best life, that have a better life than they do. If not, you shouldn't have kids, period. So we're having generation after generation of kids that are not looking up to their parents anymore. That's why I think it's also, so even parents, like, even starting to realize that, and that's why you have this new wave of parenting where these parents want to be their kid's best friend. I think that's the stupidest thing ever. You want to be your kid's best friend? You want to party with your kid? You want to do all this stuff with your kid? You want to smoke and drink with your kid and stuff? Man, I get it, because you're like, oh, well, they're going to do it anyway, so at least they do it around me, blah, blah, blah. No. You look stupid. Some of y'all look stupid. Some of y'all, it works. For the majority of y'all look stupid, because it's not stopping your kids from making the same mistakes that you did. So what's the point of doing that anyway? In fact, you may be introducing your kid more to it and make him feel more comfortable that they're susceptible to do on a regular basis. Now, if you're productive and you're doing that stuff, hey, fine. That's something I don't participate in anymore. Well, you know what I'm saying? I don't participate in any of that stuff anymore. But hey, do what you do. But if you're not, if you're working a 9 to 5 at a dead end job, you're not amounting to anything. Your ambitions have been crushed, your dreams have been crushed, and you're sitting there smoking and drinking with your kid. and you want your kid not to do the same, follow the same route, obviously your vices are probably consider your vices more than leveling up and doing better by yourself. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so I think we as a culture need to be very wary of continuing this cycle, this very ugly, disgusting cycle of putting these entertainers and these celebrities up to be the moral foundation of where our society goes. Because at the end of the day, these people want to make money. And there's various different agendas. I'm not going to say what these agendas are, but that these people are being fueled and funded to. And we wonder why our society is slowly deteriorating. It's because if the almighty dollar is what you worship, you're willing to say and do anything to get more of it. There's one person that I do think is actually more of a recent celebrity that I do really look up to. Khabib, the UFC player, I think he is actually a great role model. Because he stands for what he believes in. And he's just like, hey, the money is not everything. Second person also is Dave Chappelle. I really like Dave Chappelle. I think Dave Chappelle is a wonderful person, man. Yeah, something can come out and we can figure differently. People are more offended by the things he says than his actions. Well, meanwhile, there's celebrities out here that their actions are super terrible, but hey, they say the right things, right? They say the right things, they push the right agendas, and nobody says anything. Yeah, people live vicariously through their celebrities, like Nicer. You know what's something crazy? Why is it that people get worked up when their favorite celebrity couple breaks up? Like, oh my God, like there was such a great couple. Why did they break up? I wish they worked things together. No, you guys should get together because you're such a great couple. Like, what business is that? What business is yours? Is that yours? This is not even a relative of yours. I could get if you're like, hey, my daughter should get back with her husband. Oh, hey, what's up, Mr. Miami? What up? Yeah, like what business is it that these people stay in a relationship? You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And same thing with I'm gonna use an example that the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing. Let's just say those people broke up. I think they broke up before all that news came out that Amber Heard was accusing him of this and that, right? Which we all know how that turned out. And don't get me started on that. That situation infuriates me, But yeah, they broke up, and you look at Twitter with celebrity couples like that. They're like, "Oh my God, why did they break up? They were such a good match, and this and that." It's like that may be true, but shut your mouth. You don't know what's going on behind those closed doors. Like, let those people live their lives and be who they want to be with, because those people may not be good together. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors because they look good on the runway, on the red carpet or something like that. Doesn't mean these people can stand each other. My R. Kelly CD is Fire Pits Burnt Up. Yeah. Facts, man. Facts. Yeah. So but we're still for instance, let's look at the Currys, right? Or let's look at, and this is a couple that I can't stand. I'm not trying to make this a celebrity gossip blog or anything like that. This is my last celebrity example, right? John Legend and his wife. I can't stand them. I think they're super corny. I think John Legend is the ultimate simp. For a grown man to let his wife go on social media and call him a bitch, bro, you should just get castrated. That's just, it is what it is, bro. And Chrissy Teigen, also, there's another celebrity that gets away with saying really awful things, but because she got exposed, but she gets covered. She doesn't get canceled because she pushes the right agendas, right? She hates Trump. She's pro this, she's pro that. So I don't know if you follow the scandal, but she deleted hundreds of her tweets, and they were disgusting. Some of the stuff was very sus. If it was a guy that did the same thing, their career would be over. But because she's pretty, she's married to John Legend, and she pushes the right agendas, then she's not held accountable. Oh, don't even start on 50 Cent, bro. You about to start me. See, I'm trying not to talk about celebrities, bro, but you're dropping stuff. man, I used to really look up to 50 Cent, not because of the things he did. I looked up to him, you know, of course, he's a great rapper. Don't get me wrong. But there's very different criticisms, I think, about his rap career. I admire where he came from and where he led him. I admired him creating power, right? Because, you know, and things like that. I admired him creating power, and power is amazing. Power is a better version of what Empire should have been, in my opinion, you know? What's it called? But in his personal life, and especially, like, I really looked up to him for a while because apparently he's actually a gentleman. Like, Vivica A. Fox even said, like, 50 Cent is a nice guy to a woman. Like, he actually, like, bought her flowers, treated her like a lady, did all these things, right? But she treated him like crap. That's why he ran away. But him and that Chelsea Handler thing, that was disgusting to watch. 50 Cent, you got all the smoke for this rapper, this celebrity, that celebrity. But you let a freaking middle-aged, washed-up looking, basic-looking white woman diss you hard enough to where you changed your whole political convictions, and she basically mocks your blackness. She got away with even mocking your blackness. And you bound your knee, you bend your knee to her. I don't care. I'm never buying or streaming anything 50 Cent ever does. Any movies that he comes out with, like the new Power series and stuff, I ain't watching none of that, man, because I know where you stand now, 50. Especially for a dark-skinned brother, bro. Come on, you're supposed to be team dark-skinned, man. You're over here bending your knee like that. That's disgusting, bro. That was like ultimate simp. Honestly, simp card of the year goes to 50 Cent. Simp card of last year officially went to 50 Cent for that. That was disgusting. I don't think a white celebrity would have done that on the opposite end. Yeah, that's true. Exactly, man. What's up? See, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes I think I'm crazy, bro. But I had another guy. He's another dark-skinned guy. And this guy, man, I really look up to this guy. This guy's kind of a mentor to me. He even defended 50 Cent or whatever like that, or whatever, that whole thing, defended Chelsea Handler. And he's married to a white woman. So, I mean, it is what it is. That's probably where he's coming from. But I was like, man, you're making brothers look real bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, for somebody of another race to say that about you, regardless if you dated them or not, to say that I had to remind you that you're black. I had to shame you and what color you are in order to get you in line. That's racism 101 right there. If anything's racist, that's the most racist thing like that I can possibly think of. I'm more offended over that kind of racism than what things that Trump might have said or other politicians might have said, or people being like, oh, well, I just don't like black people. I don't want anything to do with black people. Stay in your lane. Hey, I have no problem with that. Please let me know so I can go my other way, so I can not talk to you, be a part of your life. If you don't like black people, that's your prerogative. I am not going to shame you for not liking black people. I could give less of a damn. My purpose in life is not to be loved and liked by people that I barely know. I could care less. Yep, he ain't getting played in my car no more. And honestly, real talk, so the first two albums that he had are pretty good, but I'm not a big fan of that, even that era that 50 Cent was in. Like that whole early 2000s hip-hop. There's a few artists that came from that era that actually are pretty good. In particular, Kanye West, of course. I think Kanye West was the saving grace of that era, but I didn't like that. That's when the East Coast fell off for me a lot. Was that early 2000s era of hip-hop. It was stale. The beats, some of the beats were fire, but it was all club music. All the songs were club. All that was just club music. It wasn't like in the 90s where somebody would have a club song, then somebody would have a song where they just had straight bars, and somebody had a song where it was just like, you know what I'm saying, like a chill song, just lay back and have a good time. Well, walaikum salam, brother. Hey, how's it going, man? Dirty South. Man, Dirty South. See, I'm from the South, too. I'm a Texas boy. And so you might be a Florida guy. And actually, Florida's pretty popping right now, bro. Florida doesn't get a lot of respect. Florida and Louisiana don't get a lot of respect. Florida is actually pretty popping now. But Florida, a lot of this stuff is the newer stuff. Like Goody Mob, yeah. Goody Mob fan. CeeLo's another guy that ruined his career recently. Unfortunately, man. That guy needs to keep his mouth shut, man. You know, that's somebody that I really looked up to as well, man. Because CeeLo just make himself look stupid. Yeah, Goody Mob, Outkast. Memphis, the Memphis scene honestly should get more respect. Memphis, the 3-6 Mafia era, which I think 3-6 Mafia started a monster. Like, honestly, 3-6 Mafia is borderline evil. Yeah, I'm a Texas guy, so DJ Screw all the way. So actually, speaking of DJ Screw, when the 3-6 Mafia style mixed with DJ Screw, that whole sip and lean culture, it was a wrap after that. They made sip and lean, doing opiates, and being a drug addict, not a drug dealer, but a drug addict cool. And that's why, of course, DJ Screw died because of that. Pimp C died because of that. I think one of the members of 3-6 Mafia died from that. So it's like, UGK and things like that, I grew up on that. 8-Ball MG. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep this short and sweet, man. I'm gonna jump off, man. Hey, Ahmad, I'm sorry that you got in at a bad time, man. I was, if you roll it back, I kind of go through my points, but basically the summary of this, I'm gonna summarize it right now. The summary is our youth are idolizing celebrities, but not idolizing the people in their community that are doing good works in the community. They're not idolizing their political leaders. They're not idolizing their parents. Why? Because the previous generation has let people down. You know what I'm saying? So since our previous generation has let people down, the kids are disillusioned with that. So they run to the celebrities because they have the money, they have the glamour, they have the looks, they have the lifestyle that people want. And our society, if we don't change this culture in-house and at home, then we're going to lose our youth forever. The next generation, each generation is going to be further deviated away from, righteousness, in my opinion. Yeah, glad you agree. Hey, later, Nicer. Yeah. Ahmad, I'm sorry you got at the tail end of this, man. But if you look at the earlier parts of the video, you see me elaborate on a lot of these things. Yeah. I'm glad that you sent your way off with the deuces. I'm saying that's what's up. But we need to stop this right now. And if we don't start now, we never will. Like, that's why while I'm at work, I really don't talk too much about celebrity stuff. I could care less. Like, I keep all that away because we spend so much energy focusing on these people and they contribute nothing positive to our society. So thank you very much for tuning in. Going on Mace's channel. Okay, man, I might see you there a little later. I got some things I probably need to do. I need to study, and then I think I'm going to go up and I got some clothes that I'm going to give to a thrift shop because I'm kind of cleaning house right now. I'm a minimalist. As you can see, my walls ain't got nothing on them. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to show you all around my room. My walls ain't got nothing. I don't have no posters, no pictures. I'm a minimalist. When I get married and I have kids, then maybe I'll go and buy a bunch of extra stuff. But I believe that I only want to live within my means. So if it's something that I don't think is necessary, I'm not going to have it. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much. This was more or less this is a topic that was, that was secular. You don't have to be religious to understand the concepts, what I'm saying, of what I was talking about. You know what I'm saying? It's good to have heroes, but not idols. Do not idol worship. Do not worship these celebrities because they're human beings too. They have flaws. That's one thing about heroes, right? You can see a rise and the fall of the hero, and we recognize it. So we recognize the best of what that person was before they fell off. So thank you very much for joining me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And shalom to anybody that's like a Hebrew Israelite, Jewish, or whatever like that as well. You know what I'm saying? I want to show love to everybody of the people of the book, just in general. Regardless if you believe or not, I want to show you love as well. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for joining me on this journey called life. I'll see you on the flip side. Have a wonderful day. I might do another one later on today. And I think that when I do later on today, it's going to be based upon patience and learning how to be patient, because that's one of my biggest struggles as well. See ya.